The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. To you, O Lord. Immediately after feeding the crowd with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But by this time the boat, battered by the waves, was far from land, for the wind was against them. And early in the morning, Jesus came, walking toward them on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, started walking on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshiped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus.
The first reading of today's Mass, the prophet Elijah, who is fatigued and disheartened by many trials, seeks refuge in a cave where he was told to wait for the Lord to speak to him. Elijah did not hear the word of God in the wind, nor in the earthquake, nor in the fire. The voice of God came in the silence, in his listening to his own heart. What does silence cause us to do? Silence causes us to turn into ourselves. Let us imagine being in the depths of the forest. What do we hear? What do we hear sometimes? Sometimes nothing. Nothing at all. It is a very eerie feeling. The only thing that we hear is the pounding of our hearts. When Elijah reached the mountain, the Lord asked him to go out and stand on the mountain, for the Lord was about to pass by. Hidden in a crack in the rocks, Elijah experiences a great wind, then an earthquake, then the fire. But God was not in any of these. Is it not the same in our own personal lives? We do not first feel the wind as represented by the luring of power of this world. Does not seem at times the world's voices appear to be louder and clearer than God's voice? But the question remains is, are we listening for God's voice? Further, we do not feel, we do not see the effects of the division in our lives, as represented by the earthquakes, the division in our own families, in our nation and in the world. And with reference to the fire, it can be an instant, intense zeal for something, or it can be the source of healing and/or a glowing love, but also can be the source of destruction. What does the gentle breeze really represent? It represents the love that is expressed by our lives. Think of a mother tenderly caressing the baby in her womb without saying a word. Or the mother or father standing over the bed of the sick child, just watching, not a word spoken, but they are emotionally drained, desperately wanting to see their child healthy again. Or even the gentle interaction of two people in love, not exchanging a word, but by a simple touch or in their glances, love is exchanged. A beautiful example of the gentle breeze reaches out in love was the Annunciation, when the Blessed Virgin Mary listened attentively to the angel Gabriel and quietly said to her, "Yes," to God, saying, "May it be done to me according to thy word." Who, after all, is the source of the wind, the earthquake, the fire, the source of love? It is God the Father. In everything there is God, and everything that represents love represents God's love for us as a gentle breeze. He is the voice. And where do we have the opportunity to listen to the gentle breeze of God, if not in the silence of our own hearts? We live in such a busy, busy world, inundated with all kinds of noise. For example, the first thing many of us do is wake up to alarm clocks. Next, get into our cars. And the next thing we turn on the radio. Then we go to the street and hear the rush of cars and trucks and buses. We should at times search for the silence in our world. If the home or the workplace is too noisy and you want a quiet place to pray, to think, and to come to listen to God's voice, come here to your parish anytime. In our gospel, after Christ finished feeding the 5,000, he dismissed the crowds, and the crowds went up to the mountain to pray. He searched for a quiet place. Again, I invite you to come into the church during the day to spread some quiet time here in this place with the Lord, away from the hustle and bustle of busy life, to sit, to pray, to listen to God's voice in your hearts. Christ reveals himself to us in the breaking of the bread, a soft breeze, a holy moment, and when the Eucharist is elevated, we see Christ silently raised in front of us. He is the voice. He will become part of us. He is a gentle breeze calling us how to live in his love, calling us gently, listen to him, to listen to the same voice spoke through the prophets, the same voice that speaks to us today, if we are willing, to help us, to walk us through the storms in life and through the times when we are divided, to help us put out the fires of anger, to help us to live in his love again.